Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of CLX Foundry Live, where we dive deep inside of somebody's build and we assemble it from the ground up. I'm your host, DJ Blue PDX, and of course, joining me live from our studios in Wichita, Kansas, it is none other than our lead technical expert, Paul Steffens, and our master builder, Zach Killingsworth. Gentlemen, hello.
Hello.
Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. We actually have a really cool build today, which is fantastic. We've got so many little things to talk about. It is a set that's being built on a Horus case, and it is for our buddy Jeff in Nebraska. So without further ado, welcome in, everybody. Glad to see you. We've got Zero Signal over here on the TikTok side, along with Phoenix. We've got on the Twitch side Scarecrow. Well, you all know who that is. It's Fix, Michael Doherty. Hello, hello. And then, of course, Corporal Spark 47 on the kick side, as well as Arkansas Relics are back. All right, cool. So what are we going to shove in this beautiful little box for our friend in Nebraska?
All right, so going inside of this, starting out with our processor, we've got the AMD Ryzen 9 7900X. To cool that, we've got our CLX Quench 240 AIO in black. This is the RGB version, so we'll have the nice cap on there. That'll sync up with everything. For our motherboard, we've got the Asus ROG Strix B650E-F gaming Wi-Fi for our motherboard. And for our memory, we've got 2 sticks of Team Group 32GB DDR5 6000 speed in black. Those do have the RGB heat spreaders on there, so 64 gigs of RAM in this build. For our storage, we have a single 4TB M.2 NVMe drive from Crucial. And for our case fans, we've got 9 of our Game DS Aeolus M2 fans in black. It's been a while since we've had the M2 fans, so it'll be nice to get those in this build. For our power supply, we've got the EVGA 1000 watt 80 plus gold modular. This is the GT. And for our case, we've got the O11 Dynamic Evo X in black.
Nice. Sounds fantastic. Well, welcome in, everybody. Don't forget, if you've got questions about a term that you hear or something that you're just not familiar with, don't be afraid to ask. That's what we're here for. We are here to answer questions for you. It's not a problem. And probably if you're willing to ask it, somebody else was already thinking about it. Cosworth's here. What's up, dude? Welcome in. Glad to have you. Okay, now this is an interesting case. I like this case. This is the case that we used the other, actually we just used the other day, correct?
Correct. I believe so, yeah.
So, Paul, why don't you walk us through some of the unique features of the O11 Dynamic Evo?
Sure. So, like most O11s, kind of similar case design here with the glass front and side panel, storage in the back, power supply hard drives in the back. But something unique about this case is we have this RGB lighting that's kind of a little bit hard to see when it's not on right here on the top and bottom. So that'll show really well when we get this thing on.
Paper Chase Music over on TikTok says dual 4090s. Is that even a thing that you can do anymore?
You can. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can.
You basically need a car battery and a nuclear power plant to run that thing. Welcome, and thank you for the follows over on the TikTok side. Kensu on Twitch. What's up, dude? It's fixed. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. All right. So with this, we've got our gaming motherboard, and that is, honestly, I love this motherboard. This is a ROG Strix B650E-F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. This is pretty much the top of the line for these. And we're going to show you why, as you're about to see once we get all the plastic stuff off. Don't forget, if you're building your own PC, please make sure that you are always removing the plastic. Otherwise, you're going to get a real funky smell, and that's going to be no bueno. All right. I know. And let's start with what is it pushing right there, people? It's called the button. The button is awesome because the button makes that move, and you don't have to reach down there with weird tools hoping you don't break through your baseboard. Phoenix mentions, I want to watch mine get built. Paper Chase Music wants an i9 with dual 4090s and a terabyte of RAM. There
you go.
Yes, please.
That'll play Minecraft.
Right? Jesus, there we go. All right, let's take a look at that IO shield, because this is where it really gets fun. This is where it really gets fun. So, starting at the top, obviously, we have got our display port and our HDMI. Very apparent. Down throughout the rest, we've got our 4 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports. And then below that, we have got our USB 3.2. That is Gen 2 by 2. And then that's Gen 2 1. And then down below that, you've also got your little buttons right next to it. You've got your 4 USB 2s, and then you've got your 3.2 Gen 2 by 2, which means you have 20 gigs total. 10 gigs up, 10 gigs down. If you're going to be adding like a the expansion, if you want to add a hub, that would be the one to plug it into. 2.5 gig LAN port, plus we've got our Wi-Fi 6E and all of our audio, plus an additional USB-C down below. There we go. Pretty bang on board. I have a ROG Strix. I'm a huge fan of ROG. So there we go. Let's go and get started with this. First thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do for brains on this thing. So let's talk about it. This is gonna be a Ryzen 9 7900X. It's a 4.7 gig. Paul, walk me through this. This thing is massive.
This is a very powerful processor. So it's a 12-core, 24-thread processor with a base speed of 4.7, and it will boost all the way up to 5.6. So this thing's going to crush anything you throw at it.
Oh, wait. Paper Chase mentions that they have an i9 with dual 4090s and a terabyte of RAM. That's what you have presently?
Oof.
What the That's incredible.
Well, we know where to send our first Terminator to take care of Skynet.
Right? Basically, you have Skynet. GG, nicely done. You're making the future happen. There we go. Majin Collecting says, I have 2 SSDs. Where should I put them to have the GPU run at 16 and the SSDs at 4? Ooh, I'm going to need a little more clarification. Do you know what that's in reference to?
Probably PCIe lanes would be my guess.
What I'm thinking.
But
okay.
not 100% sure if your SSDs are M.2 or if they're 2.5 inch or, you know, there's a bunch of different SSDs out there.
That's an actual question that I'm going to ask. So here we go. What can you tell me what this? I know this is super idiot details, but walk me through what PCIe lanes are and what draws off of them and what is, because I know what the PCIe slot is, but you're talking about, like when you start talking about lanes, what do you mean?
So my experience with PCIe lanes, I haven't had to mess with it in a long time, but back in the day with my X99 build, I had an i7 5820K and a couple M.2s, and I didn't have enough PCIe lanes that my CPU would support, so it couldn't communicate with everything. Now that is being increased a lot now, so it's usually not an issue, but if you've got, you know, a ton of M.2s and a whole bunch of other stuff, you could run into some issues.
Gotcha. Well, that makes a little sense there. That makes more sense, definitely. It's Fixed says, I can't wait to get mine. You need it. Yes, you do. Fixed says, I want to watch mine get built. Well, you know, you never know what could happen on this show. Now, as far as cooling our i9, we're going to need to use an AIO. And so the user, Jeff, decided to go with a CLX Quench 240 ARGB AIO in black. Now, this is smaller than what we usually see on the show. So, Paul, how is this different, and what does this mean when it comes to cooling an the Ryzen 9?
Sure, so this is a 240. Typically what we see on the show are 360s. That refers to the radiator size right here. So you can see we can get two, oops, sorry, Zach.
You're good.
We can get two 120 millimeter fans on either side of this. That's why it's a 240. So if you're going with a Ryzen 9, this is the lowest, or the smallest radiator I would recommend going with. At least go with a 240 or greater. You can run into some issues if you're running a 120 to cool these.
Yeah, my former gaming PC had an i9 9900K in it, and it was cooled by a push-pull 120 AIO. Let me explain that I had to take the sides off of this thing to allow it to vent and put a fan on it to keep it from overheating. So definitely don't go short on those. Julian mentioned still building my $15,000 dual system with dual independent custom liquid cooling. Never stop upgrading. That's
Very
right.
nice.
Well done. Over on the purple side, hello, Mr. Poppy Watto. Hello. How's it going? Got Jimmy O in the house. He said, Jimmy O says, I have a 512, I'm assuming, gig NVMe and 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM and 4 13 terabyte. Wait, what?
Jeez.
Hold on. You have 4 13 terabyte hard disk drive storage?
413.
Either way, that's still a metric ton of storage. Wow, I thought I was pushing it with my media setup over here is just 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
You got to push those rookie
I got
stats.
15. I know. Now I feel like I'm missing out because of that. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're putting on your AIO is what, Zach?
You want to use the correct retention kits. There are difference between AM4 and AM5. There's a difference between the 12th, 13th, 14th gen and 10 and 11th gen processors. So be sure that whenever you are plugging any of your heat distribution devices up, you are utilizing the proper equipment. The best case scenario is it doesn't make contact and your computer turns off after you turn it on, and then you're like, why won't it turn on? The worst case scenario, you could accidentally screw your processor deeper into your motherboard than what it's supposed to, causing damage to pins.
That sounds bad.
Yes.
Exceedingly bad. Okay. Well, now I've got this here. Now, for our processor to be able to have something to think through, it needs random access memory, and for that, we've got our team group. These are two 32 gig sticks of DDR5 6000 memory. And honestly, looking at the shape of them, I think they're really cool looking, and the way they light up is actually fantastic. They look like a Batwing. They do look like a Batwing.
They do,
Now,
yeah.
now this is a computer that's going to have 64 gigs of RAM. So, but it's 64 gigs across two, just two sticks. I have 64 gigs, but across 4 sticks. So what's the advantage to having the larger on 2 sticks?
The advantage, like in this build, having 2 sticks and leaving 2 open is the upgradability in the future. So if you ever want to upgrade, you know, you've just got those slots there. You don't need to replace all your memory. You can just buy 2 more and you're good to go.
That is awesome. Also, I've got I forgot, I was gifted a duck cup.
Nice.
It is a giant
It's an actual
duck.
cup.
It is, like the tail pops off, and then you can pull out the inside, and they serve a margarita in this thing. And
Nice.
You don't drink it out of its mouth? Well, that's weird.
For those bath time margaritas.
I know.
oh no, it floats in the water. So technically, that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Yep.
There we go. There we go.
Man, we're getting shower wasted.
Now, next up, we're going to have to take a look at something called our operating system drive. Now, this is a big one. I have one of these, but I have one from a different company. It is a 4 terabyte Crucial P3 PCIe NVMe M.2. These are hardcore drives. Paul?
Sorry. Oh my gosh, Kirschlong, you got me. All right, so yeah, this is our 4 terabyte NVMe drive. We just have one drive in this system, but this thing's got 4 terabytes on it. So obviously our OS and everything else is going to go on there. But if you didn't want to shell out the money for a 4 terabyte NVMe, you could go with like a 1 terabyte, put your operating system and a game or two on there, and then buy like an HDD for secondary storage.
Kirschlong, I hear you, I feel you, I see you, because I'm the same way, and it's awful. But you know what the upside is? Hey, as long as you've got a plug-in, you can keep your phone charged. You can be there for a little while. Just don't let your legs go numb. Make sure that you at least slightly stand up every now and then.
Or just do
between
fish kicks. Just do fish kicks.
Or just go with
Fish
the hot
cakes.
dog drink combo next time. Save yourself some money.
Oh my gosh. What about RNG Vigor says, what about all the people behind you? Well, they're trying to get to my duck. So I have to ask them constantly, as most people do ask zombies, what the duck? Get it? Because it's a duck. Bearded fella, how's it going? Oh, well, thank you. Glad to hear it. Appreciate you.
9 fans, correct.
9 fans, yep.
Yeah, we're gonna. That's one of the nice things about
369.
these is that you can get a full 9 fan setup in there. A full 9 fan.
It's like, where'd this come from? That was from the SSD or the.
Oh yeah, yeah. I should have just tossed it.
Random screws are scary.
I hope. What is this?
All right, now we're getting these all in there. So there's 2 of our 9 fans. Let's see here. And when you're putting these together, what's the best approach, Paul?
So when you're installing fans on a radiator, you want to have them installed in a way that it's pushing air through the radiator. That's referred to as the push method. So what you're seeing right now, the tops of these fans, air is going to be coming in here, pushing it through the radiator and out the case. Now, if your case is a little bit designed differently and you have to have those fans flipped around to where they're pulling air through, that's fine too. It's just more recommended to use the push method than the pull.
Let's see here. Gav415 mentions, what's a good CPU match for an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660?
Sure, so a good match for that, I would start out looking at Intel i5s or Ryzen 5s. That would probably be what I would pair with. I think anything a little bit more than that, you might start bottlenecking that GPU.
Now, when you say bottleneck, some people might not know what that means. How does that work?
Sure. So what bottlenecking is, like, let's say you have that 1660 in your system and you go with this Ryzen 9 7900X. Well, your processor is so much more powerful than what that video card can handle. You're not really getting the benefit of the money you spent on that processor because it's limited by the graphics card. If that is something you can do if you planned on upgrading your video card later and you wanted to, get a high-end processor, you could definitely do that and upgrade your card later. But that's what bottlenecking is.
Gotcha. All righty then. Now everybody can say, hey, I know. And now we're going to put this into our case. Now, we do have a question coming in from Conrad over on the purple side. It says, you guys going to offer the O11 XL Evo? Regular O11 XL is available, I know, or did I miss it somewhere?
I believe we've had the XL Evo.
Yeah.
We've had the XL Evo, right, Zach? We've definitely done
correct.
some builds in
Yes.
there.
I know we've done it
so
on the
many
show,
different
yeah.
models of O11. It's kind of hard for me to keep them straight. But yeah, we have a lot of different models of the O11, and there's constantly new revisions coming out and stuff like that.
These are the best of the best PC builders right here. You're absolutely correct. So basically, just pay the extra for a build of your own. Yes.
Thank you.
And we had this conversation earlier, and I will talk about it later. Absolutely, is a Ryzen 9 good with a 4060 Ti? Good question.
It's not bad. It's definitely better than if you were pairing it with that 1660 that we were talking about earlier, but I would still say that's pretty high end. If you're going with the 4060 Ti, my recommendation would be something in Ryzen 7 or Intel i7.
Let's see here. Andrew Wagner mentions, I just finished my first building today. Super stoked to get everything updated. Yes.
Very nice.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be real fun. All right, now we're getting all of this mounted in here. Now, as you notice, there's going to be little holes that have silver rings around them. Paul, what are those for?
Those are our motherboard mounting holes. So this motherboard is sitting on top of standoffs right now, and those separate the motherboard from the chassis so that we don't have any shorting out. So these screws Zach's putting in those holes are actually tightening the board down to those standoffs to secure it in place.
Hashim! Welcome in, my friend. Welcome in.
What up, Hashim?
What's going on over there, YouTube and the green side? Hello to everyone. Hope you're enjoying the show. Evil Twin 011 says, I have a 4060 Ti with an i7 13700F.
There you go. That's a pretty good combo right there.
That's a good combo. That's a good
Leaves
balance.
you room to upgrade your video card without having to upgrade your CPU as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm glad I've got my. I bought a 3090 OC and then an i9 13900 KF. So I totally hear you on that one. Let's go down to Xfix says, are you guys going to have more of those entry-level 4060 RTS models back in stock before too long?
We should. So those are selling really well, and we are prepping right now. As we speak, we're building a ton of those and a bunch of other RTS models.
But Paul, what's RTS?
Glad you asked. Good question. So what an RTS stands for is ready to ship. So those are systems that get built just like what we're doing here. They go through all the same processes. Zach's probably built a ton of them just like he's building these right here. And those are just some popular selling SKUs that we have that we like to keep in stock. That way, if you want to order one, you can place it and it'll ship same day or next day. That way, you don't have to wait to have everything built. So it's a pretty good system if the specs of what you want are on there.
Now, It's Fixed, I believe, already mentioned that they are waiting on their PC to be built because they ordered it from us. It says, yo, question, what's the first 3 things to do when you receive your PC after you power it up and stuff?
So after you power it up, if you get one from us, you're just going to have a fresh install of Windows. We have some games you can pick on the website if you would like us to install those here, but if you don't pick anything, you just get a fresh install of Windows. So first thing I would do is just download your favorite game and get going. There isn't much setup that you have to really do.
Step 1, plug your HDMI or DisplayPort cable into your graphics card.
There you go.
Yes, and you would be shocked as to how many people miss that option.
Oh yeah.
Andrew, oh yeah, I guess we do put a sticker there that says, hey, plug it in here, not there. Andrew Wagner's mentioned that he sourced all the parts used and had a hiccup with a bad board, sourced another and it posted perfect. Nice. Nice. Evil Twin got yours from another company. Totally understandable. Why you're looking to buy here. 3700X with a GeForce 1070 Ti. Nice. That's decent. I mean, I stream on a Ryzen 5 3600 with a just a basic 1070. That's my entire streaming rig. It's not that, doesn't have to be that powerful, but it is on the down low. It is starting to slowly crack at the edges. I'm upgrading from a 4090 to a 4090 from a 4070 Ti Super, but I don't want it to bottleneck my CPU. Interesting.
Now, what CPU do you got?
Christopher Melto, yes. Philip mentions, I bought one of your systems for my son. He keeps getting blue screens. Have you contacted customer service or tech support? That would be my first suggestion. We have an incredible team of technicians that would be more than happy to help you with that. This is my first time I have seen or heard of you guys. Well, we need to get you some gaming conventions because you'll find us all over those. You'll find us at DreamHacks and Twitch Cons and PAXs and then there's even more. Which one? Oh yeah, and the Comic Cons. We provide a lot of PCs for all over the place. Tapwater Steve. Oh, wait. Let me back up to Andrew. So, jumping back, Chris Melto mentions it's an i9 14K.
i9 14900K, I'm assuming. Yeah, that's you got a really high-end processor and a really high-end video card if you're going to that 4090 there.
And then, let's see here. Nick's Vids actually asks, how do I apply for a job doing this as a career? Good question.
Well, if you're in the local Wichita area, you can just apply online and I'm sure you'll get called in for an interview. There are other ways, but yeah, just look us up and send us an application.
Andrew Wagner mentions first building as well as PC in general, so figured I'd start small to dip my toes in. Wise. And if you have any questions about anything that you build yourself, please feel free to ask. We will get to that ASAP. Not a problem. Is that number on the website? Yes, it is, Philip. Yes, it is. Coming back over to the purple side. Let's see. Lala mentioned. Let's go back up to the top. Apparently, I've missed. See, I get focused on one thing and then I lose my track. Here we go. On the purples, we've got. You guys do optimizations for future preference. Paul, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love to answer this one.
Yeah. So I'd like if you can be a little bit more specific on the optimizations, but yeah, if we get boards in like the Intel 13th and 14th gen, we do BIOS updates on those for the fix, and then Windows should be up to date. We should do all that happens in our testing process. So,
she mentioned question was the first thing. Oh, first three things, yes. And as she mentioned, if it's from a random builder, you can go to your BIOS, enable XMP, adjust fan curves, etc. Then head into Windows and can and can go about removing all the bloatware, etc. That's one of the nice things about our systems, is that that is not a problem there. Lala mentions that when I was building my PC, I plugged my monitor into my motherboard and wondered why it doesn't work. My friend Hiccup, she played Rainbow Six Siege for years with me and couldn't figure out why she was getting such terrible frames per second. She's like, I've got a 3070. I don't understand this. And then one day she asks, question, is the graphics card power the HDMI port on the board, or is that why there's HDMI ports on the card? Girlfriend went from getting roughly 45 to 50 FPS to 200. Yeah.
She went from being carried to carrying.
Yeah. I still game on a 1080 Ti. That GPU is beast. Yeah, it is. It was one of the OGs, man. Absolutely agreed. Popping back over here to the TikTok side. Yeah, Evil Twin mentioned this was your first pre-built PC on your console guy. Wanted a good PC for streaming and some games. Got it. Nice. There you go. Appreciate it. And your builds are definitely quicker than mine. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Oh, go ahead.
There's a 3-pound, I believe.
Okay. Being a super. Yeah. Correct.
Let's see. So my first time building my very first streaming PC was 6 hours, and I had to pull that motherboard on and off like 6 times. Because I didn't understand the concept of anything with regards to cable management. I'm trying to build so Sean Groves, hello. I'm trying to build my kids a gaming PC for Christmas, hoping it's built before December. Any advice? Good question.
Build your PC hoping it's built before December. Are you building it yourself or ordering it through us?
That's a good question. It's been Expansions chat. Does anybody else love how Zach just goes about his business and just builds? That's just what he does. Yep. Yeah, and when it comes to updating the BIOS on your board, Paul, is that something that's taken care of during our burn-in?
So that is something we do before the burn-in process. It's actually the first thing we do in testing if your BIOS needs an update, because when you go to update your BIOS, it's going to reset your BIOS settings most likely, so your RAM speeds and stuff like that. So if we have to update the BIOS, we do that first, and then we go in and set the BIOS, RAM speed, all that good stuff.
That's good.
Oh, yes. She mentioned he's a true pro. He's drowned out all the noise, and he's just super cyan focused. Absolutely correct. What rank am I in Siege? I think I'm like 180, 190.
We're prestiged in Siege.
Oh, you're meaning like ranked. No. So in ranked, I am in the top 3% of players in the world for shortest lifespan. I'm usually the first one to do something stupid and die.
All right, I want to go back to the motherboard, plugging in HDMI and display ports into motherboards. We can do that if our processor has graphics enabled. With AMD processors, you will have to have a processor that says G on it. The G stands for graphics.
Yep.
And then with the Intel processors, those guys are in the reverse. Intel has thrown graphics onto all of their processors unless it says F. So if you have like a KF unit, you do not have graphics. But if you have a K unit, you do have graphics. But a graphics card is going to be the superb. That is where you're getting graphics. If you just need to do some quick BIOS changes to see if your graphics card has been corrupted, that is what having a processor with graphics on board allows you to do.
Jumping back over to the purple side, First Datum has a really great question. It says, built my first PC yesterday and it posted first try. Yay, let's go.
Nice.
The only issue that I'm running into is that the SSD is not being recognized in the BIOS. I have updated the motherboard already. Excellent question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So is your SSD an NVMe M.2 or is it a SATA? Because there's a couple different things you can do there. And how many of them do you have would be the next question. So sometimes we always like to populate the top M.2 slot. If we just have one drive, that's where you want to put it. If you've got two, you're obviously going to have one there and one down below. But there can be some issues on some motherboards where, let's say you've got two, you've got one in the top slot and one in like the very, very bottom. It might not recognize that that's there. So that's, if you've got an M.2, that'd be the first thing I would check, try a different slot. And if it's plugged in SATA, like if you've got a 2.5-inch one, then sometimes the SATA ports, you just need to put it in a different SATA port on the motherboard.
So I mentioned that it is an NVMe SSD and only have one drive. It's just the top slot.
It's just the top slot and it's still not recognizing. Yeah, try to move it in a bottom slot. There's some motherboards that, like I think it was like 10th and 11th gen, and maybe some others were having some issues where the NVMe drive was too fast and it had to be in the bottom slot.
That's how I was, make sure it's like the proper speed of an NVMe for the port that you're trying to plug it into.
So yeah, I would move it down to a lower slot and see if that fixes your issues.
Thank you for all the loves over there on that tech side. Let's jump. By the way, it's Sphinx asks, so Silver 5. No, basically I'm wet cardboard. That's about that's where I'm at. Jumping back over to the TikTok side, Nick's Vids wants to know, what is a good motherboard? What is a good motherboard to run with a Ryzen 9 and a 4060 Ti? Good question.
So it really depends. If you're not planning on doing any overclocking, I would look at an X670, something like that. You don't have to go top of the line there. The higher end motherboards just have a little bit more features and allow for easier overclocking and more stable ones. So if you're not planning on doing overclocking, you can pretty much go with any X670. I'd pick one that kind of matches your config. Go with a reputable brand like Asus, ASRock, MSI, Gigabyte, something like that. There's some other brands out there. There's just too many for me to mention, but make sure it's a reputable brand.
Absolutely. And of course, no, great example of asking questions, people. This is what part of having our conversations are about. It's so much fun. It's nice.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know, Datum, if that fixes your issue or if it doesn't.
Yeah, if it doesn't, come on
back.
back.
Try to troubleshoot a little bit further. It's kind of hard to troubleshoot without having the system in front of us, but we do the best we can.
Yeah. Agreed. And Andrew mentioned he learned via a lot of YouTube and a friend.
Learn a lot on YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube.
Yep.
Anytime I got to mess around with one of my vehicles, I go to YouTube first.
Yep. Anytime I want to consider, theoretical physics,
Yeah.
I'd go to YouTube.
I just load up a Harvard YouTube.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. MIT's class schedule. Yes.
Okay, what do I want to do next?
What's your build time record, boys?
It really depends on the complexity of the build, but a super simple one, I could probably knock out in maybe 45 minutes, maybe a little less than that. Zach can probably shave another 15, 20 minutes off that. So something like this, pretty standard, is about an hour. We can probably get it done a little bit less than that. So
now we've got our 3 fans on the bottom and our 3 fans on top, and then we're going to be putting 3 more fans on the back here. And while we're getting that all set up, do we want to take a look at that big old graphics card?
might as well. It's all right here.
And she's like, I know you guys can beat. What's the specs of the build today? Let me grab that real quick. I can share that. Oop, and paste.
Just watching me.
There you go. Check that link out. Coming over to the red side. Good evening, guys. I had a question. If I already have a 4090, should I be in a rush to upgrade, or should I be good for a while? That is
yeah, as far as your video card
upgrade
goes,
and sell it to your buddy.
Yeah. Now, we've got a great card here. It's a PNY. This is a RTX 4080 Super. Now, that's pretty hardcore. I like the design. It's that matte black feel to it.
Yeah, all
Looks
matte
good.
black.
Okay. There's-
This will light up as well. The branding will light up, and then a nice, pretty sleek backplate on here as well.
Yes. Definitely. Going down here. Where are the top fans blowing? Down or up? Up.
Up.
Always
They
up.
will be exhausting.
Top fans exhaust makes sense logically. Yes, agree. Hot air rises. Jumping back over into the TikToks, Sean wants to know. Actually, let's go back up to Honda for life. Yeah, there you go. Is it better for a full motherboard or a micro motherboard?
It just depends on what you want. I prefer to have a full motherboard because you're going to get more slots and more headers and all that good stuff. But if you want a smaller chassis to like fit in a smaller area, you can go with the MATX or the ITX ones. Those are fine too. Really nowadays, the size of the board really doesn't determine the performance. We've seen ITX builds, the really, really small ones, that you can fit a 4090 in with a high-end processor. So it's kind of whatever you want.
Lala mentions there's so many fans, I thought it's rotating between them.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna pause on
Let's
this.
see here. How often should you clean a PC with a water
I
cooler?
go to the power.
All right.
Good question.
I've just been like building a little bit different the past 2 days. So
Yeah.
struggling.
So, Paul,
What's that?
how often should you clean a PC with a water cooler?
So really, you don't have to do it that often. I mean, a professional recommendation's probably once every month, but I mean, I don't clean mine that frequently. Maybe once every 6 months, something like that. Really, and all you need to do is just get the radiator. The radiator is going to collect dust. You don't need to mess with the fluid at all. That just is fine. But you just want to take your panels off where your radiator is and wipe off that dust.
And Nix has an open loop system. So, and it says my coolest experience was actually draining and replacing the fluids in the radiator. I want to go with the one we have, the open loop that we have that has the front. It's built into the front of the case.
Yeah, it's a distro plate.
The distro plate, because then the only liquid comes out the two things that are on the outside, and I really have less of a potential to destroy myself. Speaking of things that are going to be difficult to destroy, let's talk about this power supply unit. We've got a 1,000-watt EVGA Supernova 80 plus gold. Now, this is a modular power supply. So here's the question. Well, first of all, can we talk about the braided, sheathed cords? I love how they do this. It always looks clean. It's slick. But let's talk about the fact that it's modular. What does that mean? And are there other kinds?
So what modular means is that none of the cables are pre-soldered into the case. You can see that's what me and Zach are going through right now. The cables all plug into the power supply here, and then the other end will go to their respective areas. So pretty big advantage to having a modular power supply is that you can work with your cables before having this brick installed. So that's why we're separating out these cables. We got our motherboard 24 pin there. We're going to separate out a couple CPUs. And then we'll move on to our video card.
Whoa.
Jimmy O says, did I make a wise choice in going to a 3060 Ti from a 650 Ti? I am going to just jump out here and say yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Back over here on this side, you have a sealed water cooler unit. Yeah, that's an AIO, and you don't have to do anything with the liquid in that one. Honda wants to know, one more question. Is it better to have more power supply or keep it at the minimum requirement? I honestly, I want overkill on mine, but I also have a whole lot happening in it.
Yeah,
But
I would always
Paul?
go with like 20% above, 10 to 20% above whatever your recommended wattage is. You don't want it running at max, capacity all the time. So that's why you want to have that headroom there. And there are some efficiency curves you can look at where if like your system needs 400 watts and you've got a 1600 watt power supply, yeah, it'll power it fine, but it won't be as efficient. So not too many people care about the efficiency though. It's not that expensive to run your PC.
And Sean mentions, is it better to keep a battery backup in case of power outages? Does a loss of power hurt? Paul?
So yeah, any loss of power can hurt your PC. It doesn't mean that it will. Now, for the battery backups, that's more if you're worried about your power going out and you're in the middle of a big project or something that you need to save. Those are called UPSs, which stands for uninterruptible power supply. And essentially it's just a big battery built into a power strip. And that way, if you're in the middle of a project and you lose power, you still got a few minutes for your system to run so that you can save it and then power down safely. Now, me, myself, I just have mine plugged into a surge protector. I don't really work on anything at home that, you know, would devastate me if I couldn't save it or something like that.
Your World of Warcraft account, you work on that.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Let's see here. So we did get a question about why not have all of the fans blowing out. So you have to have it. You have to have. That's a good question, but that means where's the air going to come in from? You got to be able to have fresh air coming in so you can justify things going out. Now this, let's talk about the air pressure things. It's something we haven't really covered in a little bit. And we're going to talk about that because we've got a great example of this one. We've got 9 fans total, 3 on the top, 3 on the back, 3 on the bottom. So the 3 on the back are going to be blowing air in. The 3 on the bottom are going to be blowing air up. The 3 on the top are going to be exhausting. And then you'll notice there's a grate at the end that doesn't have a fan on it, but it is another way for the air to keep going out. So that's called positive pressure. Paul, positive pressure, how does that work? Why is it important?
So what we mean by positive pressure is more air coming into the system than we do leaving it. We definitely could set this system up in a way where every single fan was exhausting, but that's going to create a vacuum inside of our machine, and then dust and all this other stuff is going to get sucked in through all the little cracks and crevices of the case and not go through the filters. So that's why we don't want to do that.
Yeah. I know I always bring this up because I'm so proud of it. I love it. But I don't have to worry about much of anything building up in there. I've got 13 fans and only 4 of them are exhausting. So it's just bringing as much fresh air in as possible. Yeah, UPS is a great idea. I'm triple surge protected in this house, which is kind of nuts, but it was kind of required. So, how to keep the GPU cool? I have a 3070 Super, and I have 3 intake fans and 3 exhaust fans, and it still gets hot.
How hot are you talking? These cards nowadays can get pretty warm, even functioning at their regular temperatures. But if you are noticing that the temperatures are getting way higher than they should be, adding more intake fans is always good. But then also you can look at how your case is set up. With this case, our intake being on the bottom, that fresh air that's coming in from the outside is first going to hit the graphics card, which is a pretty good design.
Let's see here. Do you all offer lifetime warranty on parts and labor? We offer lifetime warranty for lifetime technical support and customer service. Your parts warranty that's up to you. You can do either 1, 2, or 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, the base is 1 year, and you can upgrade that to 2 or 3 years.
Hello, Akemi. Nice to see you. Welcome in. Yeah, and that's so they're talking temperatures in both the chats. Let me just go and ask questions because I had something weird happen the other day, and I was concerned because I've never seen it get up there. But I had my CPU and GPU up at like 72, 73 degrees. I was playing God of War Ragnarok on PC, and that's the highest I've ever seen it. So at what point should I start getting concerned that the rig is running, is not cooling down fast enough?
I wouldn't be concerned. I wouldn't start getting concerned until you were seeing like 90 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, 72. That's pretty cool, honestly, to be running those games. That's pretty good.
It's just like so far, like even when I'm playing Siege, I play Siege on Ultra at 1440 and barely cracked 55. So seeing it hit 70, I was like, wait, hold on, what happened?
You're like, what?
Let's jump back over here to the TikTok side. You're Fat Albert from Kick. When did you start streaming on TikTok? We've actually been streaming on TikTok for a while. So, yeah, you can always catch our vids here as well. Akemi, just step by and say hello. Hello. My GPU is like in the center of the case. Yeah. CO Clips. When's the next giveaway? Well, stay tuned to our future shows on our social media. We'll announce it once it's ready. You're just shook. Let's see here. Rust is pretty GPU intensive, and my rig gets pretty warm after a couple of hours. I can imagine. Most PCs on the average are doing 80s. Wow. Okay, well then I'm once again very happy about that. I think that push pull definitely made the difference. So
Good.
for those who might not know what that is, Paul, what is a push pull?
So push-pull is referring to your radiator. So that's having fans on both sides. So on this one, we have the fans on one side pushing air through and exhausting out. If we had fans on the inside and on the outside, that would be a push-pull. Now that does help in cooling, but it is a little bit uncommon because you have to make sure it'll fit inside your case, and obviously you have to buy a couple extra fans for that as well.
What's up, Ayo Proto? Hello, hello, hello. Honda, good question. How important is cable management to you guys?
It's not important at all. It's like the least important. When it comes to building a computer, the bacon and the pepperonis are what matter.
True.
Dear Lord. Yes, cable management is important. Why is that, Paul?
We take a lot of pride in our cable management here. I think we've got the best in the biz. I mean, you can see from all the shows that we've done on here and what Zach's able to do and what all of our other builders can do. Cable management is important if you really want to get into like a practical sense. It's less air restriction. Everything's going to cool better. It's not like that the restrictions of a cable really have that big of an impact on airflow, but there is some. But for me, cable management is important because it just gives the system a much more professional, clean look. And then if we ever have to get inside of these, it's much easier to work in a PC that's been managed properly, other than one that the power supply just got thrown in and everything plugged in.
That is a big card. Once again, we're going to use that button right there to align that up and set that thing down. Now, one thing that you notice is that this is a raised section. You can see where all the cables are going into that little side grommet. So this is what we consider like a 2/3 build or a 4/5, depending on how you want to look at the ratios. But this means the motherboard isn't sitting directly on the back of the case. Now, this has some great advantages when it comes to airflow and temperature regulation. Paul, how does that work?
So with this 2/3 design, how that works, like you mentioned, DJ, the motherboard isn't sitting all the way on the back of the case. It's kind of like right about here. So that gives us room in the back of the case for a power supply, extra storage drives, and then a ton of room for cable management.
Firecracker mentioned celebrating 2 years this month with my CLX desktop. Not one issue gaming and streaming with my system.
Hey,
Dang!
that's great. Good to
That
see
is
you in
awesome.
here, Firecracker.
Yeah, you better knock on wood. Because you just jinxed yourself. Datum says, is the AMD Ryzen 7 7700 a good enough CPU to not bottleneck a 4070 Ti Super?
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah.
Good question. That's a good question. Nick Vince was like, I just want to build one with you guys.
That'd be awesome.
Right? Did you guys ever use GPU stands? Because mine sags a little and it makes me nervous. Ooh, yes, 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 and more yes. That is an important element. Paul?
Yeah, we use anti-sag devices in a lot of our systems. It's kind of a little bit of a flexible rule, but pretty much anything 4070 or higher, 6700 on the Radeon side and higher, we'll use one. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how big the card is. If we had like a monster 4060, we would use one. We like these ones that mount directly to the frame of the chassis, so you can kind of see it. That's what this piece is right here. So this is going into the frame of the chassis right here and then down there on the bottom. And then these ones are pretty nice. They've got that slider down there at the bottom that you can adjust up and down to fit your card.
All right, we're going
Right
to
there,
pop
you
in
can
there.
see it moving there, and so.
Yeah, if you don't have one and it's sagging a little bit, definitely grab one. Where would be a great place to just find an anti-sag device?
There's a ton of good options out there if you just look up anti-sag device. We really like the Leon Lee ones. That's a solid one, but there's a bunch of different brands out there. My biggest thing is that I want it mounted directly to the frame of the chassis because that's going to make it more secure. Some video cards do come with them, but they mount back here along with your video card, and then it's just kind of a bar here, which it's better than nothing, but it doesn't provide near as much support as these ones do that mount to the motherboard or to the frame of the chassis.
You can
There
get
we
a
go.
really cool It's kind of expensive, you know, depending on which blocks you use, but you can build one out of Legos. Just have a
That
little
would be
riser
cool.
block.
Yep, you can just do that. Be easily adjustable.
But
You have to.
it's Lego expensive, so.
True.
Sean says, "Got to go. Much love. Have a great one, dude." Akami says, "Who designs your limited edition PC cases? For example, the Sakura Cherry Blossom one." Good question.
So we've got a couple people doing that. It's mostly Scarecrow. He was in here on the chat, Kyle, one of our designers here, and then we have a couple other people that work on those designs as well. But all done here in house.
I would recommend Amazon over Temu. Just saying, anything over Temu. Joey asks, "So one major thing I hate about RTX cards, and it's that power cable adapter." Ah, yes.
Yeah, the power adapter is not loved by the by most people. It is what it is. Some power supply manufacturers are now including just a cable that goes directly from the power supply to the cards, that you don't have to use an adapter, but some you still need it.
You were going to use a superhero or something to hold it up. That's fantastic. Honda asks, "Will static electricity kill the motherboard or any of the other components?" You know, that's a great question, and it's a good time to have that conversation about where's the best place to put your device so you don't have to be concerned about said electric discharge. Paul, take it away.
Sure. So typically you want to have your PC on something that isn't going to obstruct this gap here. In this case, our intake's on the bottom. So this gap here, while it's small, it is very important for us getting fresh air inside that PC. Now for static electricity, yes, you can fry your components doing that. Now they are a little bit more durable than you might think, but anytime you're working on a PC, it's always recommended to have an anti-static device, an ESD device. So like we build on mats here, that way we don't have to worry about wearing like a wristband or anything like that. But if you're doing it at home, you don't have anything like that, just before you go into your chassis with installing stuff, you can just ground yourself with the frame of the chassis, assuming it's metal. That'll help too. You know, don't rub your feet on carpet and then go grab your motherboard to put it in or anything crazy like that.
There we go. Let's see here. Oh, hi, Jal. Good question. What are the differences in KF processors and K1s? I have an i9-12600 KF.
So the difference there is obviously the F, and what the F stands for is that if it is an F processor, it does not have onboard video. So if you have your system installed and you notice your motherboard has either like an HDMI or display video out on it next to like your USB ports, those will not work with an F processor. Now most of the time that doesn't matter because you've got a graphics card in your system, but that's the difference there.
Over on the green side, Legendary Hawk says, "Are the new graphics cards that are coming out going to have a more higher watt power supply?" Reason I'm asking is because I'm looking at the new Radeon cards to upgrade my PC soon, but I have an 850 watt power supply installed. What do you recommend? Also, hi, buddy. That's a good question.
That is a good question. So yes, newer cards are typically going to require more power. Now sometimes that's not always true, it just depends, but most of the time that is. An 850 watt power supply though should be enough to support a high-end video card with a high-end processor.
AO Proto mentions, is it an RGB cap? Yes, that is an RGB cap on that CPU cooler. Absolutely. Let's see here. That's the one we just think about. Yeah. Mr. Brightside, hello. Says, "Good evening. Random question, but why the likes of a sealed copy of Flashback PC games so desirable?" I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm not either. But dollars.
Yep. Akami mentions, do you guys have a Ryzen 7 7800X3D? They're too expensive right now. I'll be happy to buy one from you. I don't believe we sell individual components.
No, yeah, we don't sell individual components.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. Yeah, they're gonna. So far, the trend has been they keep getting bigger and needing more power. More power. So, as we're getting these all put in here, what's that giant, massive wires, believe it or not, is completely organized and sorted because Zach knows exactly what he's doing with it. Zach, what are those two little boxes, and how is it you manage these?
Yes, so these are our Game DS fan hubs. Game DS fan hubs can house 8 fans and 2 light strips, and then we can daisy it off over to another fan hub as well. So with us having 9 fans in the build here, we're going to have 2 controllers for that 9th fan. And then this just allows us to have all of our fans plugged in. We can plug them into our motherboard so that we can control them via our
Software.
Yeah,
Yep.
Software. On this one, it would be the ROG Strix software, and you can control the color of the fans, or we can still use our remote control that we like to use. Different hubs do different things with different fans. We really like the Game DS ones a lot. I like them a lot. I like the M3s. I'm excited for the M4s. I've not heard anything about the M4s, but if they're anything like the M2s to the M1s,
Yeah, the
I feel
M2s
like-
were a big improvement for sure.
I'm excited.
Yes. Okay, now we're getting our cable management all put together. So as far as the feel for that card, how hardcore was it?
It's not as heavy as it looks, but it definitely is a heavier card. It's still a 4080 Super with a big cooler on there, so you definitely want to have an anti-sag device in there.
Perfect. Nice. Thank you for the follow over there, Twinkie. Appreciate it. Now, getting this all in here, this is where it kind of nuts for me. But Paul, would you mind pointing at the spare drive section? Because I don't know if we covered that.
Sure, yeah. So the spare drive is right here. Now we've got 2 bays inside of this, so you can fit 2 3.5-inch or 2 2.5-inch drives in there.
Yep. Which is fantastic.
Or 1 and 1 if you wanted to.
Yep.
I've been
Ben
doing that a lot
Shujan.
lately.
Yeah?
Hi.
Been
What?
installing quite a few SSDs. It'll be like the combo will be like a NVMe and a SSD, or an NVMe and a HDD. And it'll be like 1 or 2 terabyte NVMe, and then like a 4 to 8 terabyte backup. I'm like, yes, this person's thinking about downloading all their Steam games.
Like I have an 8 terabyte backup here, and it's okay. I think it's just a Seagate. It's a powered USB 3, but yeah. Any tips on? Oh, let's see here. What would the minimum storage recommendation be? That's again anything you can think of, depending on
Call
what
of
you're going to
Duty.
use.
Yeah, so bare minimum
Yeah.
I would go with on a system, and you'd probably find people on the internet that disagree with me, but bare minimum I'd go with like 500 gigs with really shooting for a 1 terabyte. A 1 terabyte NVMe drive is really not, it's come down a lot in price, so it's really not that expensive. So I would go with a 1 terabyte if it were me and I was trying to do it as cheap as possible, but if you really got to, save those few extra bucks, you can go with a 500 gig. Just know you're definitely going to need an extra, storage drive to go along with that.
Yeah, I mean Windows alone is practically, dang near 400 gigs all in and of itself. Any tips on cleaning thermal paste off of the processor without removing it all?
So thermal paste is kind of hard to clean without removing it all. Now it comes off a lot easier than you think. It's one of those things, you get your cooler off, you see that thermal paste, you wipe it once and nothing comes off. But if you just stay on it, wipe it a few times in a row, it starts coming off pretty easily. Now I wouldn't, anytime we're doing any maintenance or anything on our PCs, we're gonna wipe that completely off clean and put some new thermal paste on there. I wouldn't try to be careful about leaving some on there unless you just didn't have any thermal paste at all to put back on there. I would definitely recommend wiping it all off and just putting a little bit more on there.
A soft toothbrush, don't go near your pins though.
Yeah,
If
any
it's
Any red? We have that.
Yeah.
You've got that bandana up here.
Yeah, I
Something
use a bandana, and then yeah, I have one up here. This is from MSI. It's a dual brush. It's got firmer on one side and soft on the other side. I will have a processor completely out on top of a little towel, and like if you're trying to get the little crack and corner, then that's when I do one of these on a processor. If you accidentally put too much thermal paste down and then put your heat distribution on there and then it's smooshed everywhere, try and get as many of the big clumps off before you remove the processor so that they don't go in the pins. But that's kind of a little tricky depending on like what you're actually getting into.
The stuff is messy.
Yeah.
You get it on your finger and it's on there for a while.
Yeah.
Nothing's Free says, what's up, fam, on the red side? Actually have a CLX pre-built, and I'm enjoying it 1,000%. That is awesome. So glad to hear it.
Thank
so
you.
glad to hear it. And then, of course, Learning to Grow Together 413. This is TikTok. Oh, yes, we are aware. We're working on that. Yep. It's being mentioned. Okay. And we're getting these final steps in here. One of the things I do like about the O11s is just the way that the airflow is designed. It's just going to come up and out.
Yeah, there's a few ways you can set up fans in this case. If you can do 6 fans, so 3 in the bottom, 3 in the top is how I would set that up. You can do 9 like what this customer did, and you could even go 10.
Yes, Andrew, we are Andrew Tuff. Hello. We're addressing it.
Can we
We'll get there.
Plugged in? I'm plugging.
Here we go. Right, little bitty tiny plugs.
Oh, please.
It's all heavy now. It's the RGB connector you're working on, Zach.
Every once in a while, it's like I get the 2 on the wrong side, and I'm like, why isn't it going in? These are always easy.
Yeah, we need a petition for a better RGB connector for sure.
Oh, there we go.
Right. We did get a question from Sean before we went down on TikTok. Says, do you think the Wooting 60 HE make a difference in gaming?
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not sure what that is. You're Reggie Wagner on the TikToks. Oh, well, welcome in, dude. Welcome in. And then, okay, we've got the question now over on the red side. Do you think the Wooting 60 HE keyboard will make a difference in gaming? That's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure what that is, what their system. I'm a Logitech guy, so everything I use is Logitech. But it depends on on the efficiency and how well you like the feel of it. Speaking of feels, check this out. We've got this almost done. So real fast, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick second, and I'm going to tell you about how you can get your hands on an amazing new CLX gaming PC. Let's check it out. At CLXgaming.com, we have tried to make it as streamlined as a process as you can get when it comes to how you can select and build your system. We've got large ones, we've got small ones. You pick the size and you start there. We have got AMD, we've got Radeon, we've got NVIDIA, we've got Intel. You want liquid coolers? We got them. You want an open loop system? We can do that too. Pretty much everything you can think of, we've got. You want us to overclock your GPU, your CPU, or both? We can do that. We can even upgrade your thermal paste. We've got streaming gear, and the streaming gear is fantastic because we've got Beacon mix crates, Beacon mics, we've got capture cards, and more. Plus, in our accessories section, it's great. You've got everything from CLX t-shirts and hoodies to keyboards, mice, controllers, headsets, speakers. We even have routers and chairs, which is Awesome. So, with that being said, that's not the only place that we have it. We've also got our RTS, we've mentioned a couple times in the show, and that is our ready to ship area. For a ready to ship, that means these are come in multiple different, scales of performance. You got your entry level, all the way up to ultra high performance, and they're already tested and ready to go. Looking for a home, and who knows, that home might just be yours. So for all of your future computer, PC, gaming needs, head on over to clxgaming.com and see what we can do for you. There we go.
All right.
Hello.
Everyone's going to get a fun troubleshooting lesson today. Yes. So
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and put some of these panels on. We definitely, looks like we've got an issue with this motherboard. So when we go to turn this on, just leave this one off for now. So we go to turn our system on. Nothing happens.
We are.
So what we're doing right here, since we're not getting any power, looks like we will click on like that for a minute. So now we definitely got an issue. You might think power supply first, but what we can do is pull out our 24 pin, put in this little tester. We'll make sure our switch is on. And then we'll go here, and if everything turns on, we know we've got a bad board. Sure enough, we've got a bad board. So we can see everything else is working, but we're going to go ahead and get the panels on this right now, and then we'll take this to our testing area and get the board swapped out. It's been a long time since we've had an issue with anything.
And this is what we do like on anything. If it's motherboard, processor, memory, RAM, storage, like it all gets discount double check is what I call it.
We've
to help me with this panel's
from Learning to Grow mentions, that's the keyboard. It is a pressure sensing keyboard. They're supposed to be super sensitive to even the slightest touch. More like an analog, but it's not a button. Interesting. Now I'm going to kind of have to check that out.
Is that the one that doesn't bottom out? The keys don't bottom out?
I guess, yeah. Yeah. Tech Wizard says the 4090 is becoming a dinosaur. I mean, I wouldn't say that yet.
No, it's not a dinosaur yet.
And
That makes you sad, though.
Ben Shushan, I'll be honest. In the 4 years that we've been doing this show, God, has it been that long? It has been that long. 3.5, almost 4. That is the first time that has ever happened on the show.
Yeah. Hey, we're good at troubleshooting.
Yep. So there we go. We'll go back over all of the devices that are in components inside of this case for our friend Jeff in Nebraska. So this system obviously is a set built on a Horus O11D Evo. It's got an AMD Ryzen 9 7900X CPU. Wow, come on, DJ, get it together. Mounted on an Asus ROG Strix B650EF gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, 64 gigs of DDR5 6000 with an RTX 4080 Super and a 4 terabyte Crucial P3 PCIe NVMe drive. We've got a CLX Quench RGB 240 for our processor to keep it cool, along with 9 GameDS AOLS fans and a 1000 watt EVGA Supernova 80 plus gold power supply. So, with that being said, we do the show in 2 parts, but today is not that we are not. So we're going to be heading over to me in just a few, and I'm going to be playing some Outlast Trials because it's Halloween month, and why not play something horrifying? So with that being said, this show happens every Tuesday and Thursday starting at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 Eastern, and you can always tune in, ask all your questions on whichever platform that we're on at that time. So. We also would love for you to check in with our socials to keep up to date with all the latest and greatest that's happening with CLX Gaming, and you never know, we might announce cool things as well. That is YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at CLX Gaming. You can see us over on our Discord. Also, that's discord.gg/CLX Gaming. So, with that being said, that is it for us for today. We're going to see you on Tuesday, and on behalf of Kyle and Jason, Paul and Zach, I'm DJ Blue PDX. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here.
Bye-bye, everybody.